All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Ted from Off the Hook Outdoors, and you're watching the Off the Hook Outdoors Hunt and Talk live video podcast. And today's guests are Josh from Whitetail Driven Solutions. We have Chris from City Sticker Chris.
Hey guys.
And what I'm going to do is I want to give a shout out to my sponsors, and that's Jason from JJ Drones, Carl from Chillin' in Indiana, Carl, and also Dan, the droning veteran. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over the panel real quick to Josh to let you guys get familiar with Josh, and he's going to give you a little bit of a background on what he does and where he's from and things like that. So Josh, go ahead. You got the floor, bud.
Hey, I appreciate you guys including me in tonight's topics. It's been we've done this in the past, and it's been a great deal for everybody. But yeah, I'm originally, kind of give you a little rundown. I'm originally born and raised in Central Michigan, and had property up there, and recently sold that 3 years ago. And I'm based out of Central Kentucky, and the business is I travel the entire country from here, designing and building whitetail hunting properties for folks all over the country. So I guess you could, there's different terms, but whitetail consultant, I guess, is the tag that we're tagged with. But so mainly design, but my schedule is open for 80 design clients a year. But like this year, I'd probably be involved in about a dozen builds, so it's put 30, 40, 50,000 miles on the truck a year. You cover the entire U.S., the entire whitetail range, right? Helping folks. My average client, I do properties that are 5 acres, and I do properties that are 1,500, but the average client is a private landowner that's about 60 acres, is probably my average, throughout the year. And like I said, a lot of it's design and helping, but a lot of it is, the building part of it too. I kind of got away. I went through a back surgery years ago and kind of got away from the building part of it, right? Because it was just too much for myself to do. And so now, kind of knowing how to manage that in life, you have certain people in certain areas that can help with chainsaw work and stuff like that when I do build it. So
For sure.
I get back into that, and I miss it. It's a passion of mine, So that's kind of the business in a nutshell, and I've been in the industry since went with guiding and outfitting and the consulting since 2000. So
Cool.
Kind of dating myself there. So I know you guys aren't that old, but
Actually, I am.
I am too, Josh. I am too. Like I feel you when you're saying like your body and stuff like that. You're starting to hurt. I'm starting to hurt myself. So, but I have your website up there, Josh, right there, whitetaildrivensolutions.com. If anybody's interested in getting a hold of Josh, we had Josh down at our property a few years ago. We were talking about that before the live, and it was already 3 years ago. Josh was down at our place, and he helped us out a lot. We have a sportsman's club down there, and he walked our property. He gave us some tips and tricks, and then you had your folder. We still have that folder accessible to everybody down there. And we've been doing some things that Josh had suggested to us. And in the last couple of years, we've really seen more deer on our property and better quality deer. So if anybody's interested, get a hold of Josh, wants to talk to him, maybe consult for something. And he's also open for questions. You could go talk to him. Now, Josh, I have your email. Would you mind me sharing your email also if you want?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. A lot of my correspondence starts with the email, and the reason I do that is every time somebody writes in or inquires, I start a file for that person, right, or for that group or whatever it is. Cool. So yeah, that's great to share. That's usually where I start all my stuff from.
Yeah, and so there is the email, guys, right there, Josh at whitetaildrivensolutions.com. He also has the website right here. Oh, let me show that again real quick. That's he has a website at whitetaildrivensolutions.com. And then also Josh does have a YouTube channel. Whitetail Driven what is that? It's Stay Driven. It's the Whitetail Driven Solutions.
It's actually under the Whitetail Driven Solutions title, but I think the at mark is the Stay Whitetail Driven. So
yep, and that's your motto right there, Stay Whitetail Driven at the at. Sure. So that's everything for Josh. I will be sharing, or if any moderators are in here, if you wouldn't mind looking up Chris's channel and Josh's channel, Whitetail Driven Solutions and City Sticker Chris. And if you guys wouldn't mind sharing their links throughout the live today, the podcast, I'd really appreciate that. If nobody does, I will be sharing them throughout the thing. I'm trying to stay focused on watching the chat and everything, but if I can, I will share everything. So up next is my good buddy Chris. City Sticker Chris is his YouTube channel. Chris, you want to give a little background about yourself, please?
Sure. Like Ted said, my name's Chris, and the name City Sticker is a play on words. I actually grew up in the city of Pittsburgh, not far from where Ted lives now. And I was there 31 years and decided to move north. So I'm about an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh. I'm in central PA. Like I said, play on words. It's not City Slicker, it's City Sticker, because my passion is bow hunting. So that's where the name comes from. A lot of people don't understand it and don't get it, but that's the explanation. So I moved north, and once I get here, of course, one of the things is we had a hunting camp here for years when I was a child growing up and things, and told mom and dad, hey, I'm going to move there one day. And obviously I'm a huge hunter, and why I get here and I decide, I've got to do something to tip the table towards me on my hunts and things, because it's a big wood setting and sometimes hard to hunt. So one of my fortes is food plotting, and I'm big into the food plots. I advertise, and I hate to throw a bone in here, but Domain Seed is one of the folks that I advertise for, and I'm in a partnership with them. So that's one of the things that I do on my channel. I have a YouTube channel and Instagram, and I food plot, I film hunts. I'm a solo hunter, so there's a lot of GoPros and Tacticams involved. Actually, I am also affiliated with Tacticam, just using their products and advertising for them as well. So other than that, Ted, I don't know what you need to know from me.
That's everything, brother. I know
Okay.
you. I know you like the back of my hand, so you don't have to explain.
Well,
nothing to me,
I want people to know that.
Let them know about the what your upcoming goal,
Yeah.
what your milestone is here on your YouTube
Okay.
channel.
One of my things is I'm a no BS type of guy. I tell it like it is. My videos are kind of raw. I don't do any special effects. I don't get into all that stuff. I do this for fun. I'm not in it for the money or anything like that. But I've been doing it for a couple years, and my milestone, as Ted mentioned, is I'm nearing the 1,000 subscriber mark. And when I get to the 1,000 subscriptions, I'm going to have a special giveaway. I have a fella down the road here that does laser etching, and he can make anything from leather patch hats and metal objects and things. And one of the things I'm going to do is, I think it's a Kershaw knife is that he has in stock. And I'm going to get a special one-off Kershaw knife, and I'm going to have it etched with the City Sticker wording on it, and on the opposite side of the blade probably have the YouTube symbol and an Instagram symbol or something. But it's going to be a one-off knife that nobody's going to own but the winner. And
Cool.
when I get 1,000 subs, we're going to pull somebody out of a hat, and somebody's going to win that knife.
I think you should etch the Off the Hook logo in your knife that you're giving away. Actually,
well, I give away enough of your cards too, Ted. I think I should have a kickback for all your subs.
There you go. All right. Well, now there's your little breakdown and getting to know the guys here tonight. So we're gonna try to cover 3 topics tonight, everybody. Our first topic is gonna be, as advertised, late season hunting tactics. And I'm gonna have Josh start off with what he does, what his style of hunting is late season, and to give any kind of pointers and tips to everybody that's in the chat. So Josh, you want to go ahead and start on that subject, please? The late season hunting tactics.
Yeah, it's right off the bat, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear late season is it's food related, right? Now that food related could be, your oaks, it could be your hard mast, or it could be, like Chris was saying, you put a lot of effort into your food plots, right?
Yes.
Moral of the story is, at the end of the day, late season food plots have something to do with food. The problem is, in my world, I've got to be the bearer of bad news, and I got to help people be able to experience that and reach that, because most farms are burnt out, and you don't get to experience the rut. You don't get to experience the late season because the farms are over pressured before the rut, and then the late season food source isn't there because of failed food plots. So it has a lot to do with food, has everything to do with food, right? But I'm not a sit on the food plot guy, even if it's late season, just because unless it's a Hail Mary, right? Unless it's the last day of the season and you got a day or a buck that's daylighting on a food source, whether that's a food plot and or a feeder or whatever that food source is, you have to err on the side of caution with that. You have to go into that knowing that as soon as you play that card and you sit on that food source in that oak flats, on that standing ag, whatever that case is, and you can't get out of there. Not saying that everybody is in that, some people went the extra mile early season and planted screening and the whole thing, right? But if you're on a food source, and I'm talking bow hunting related now, gun hunting, you can reach. I'm all about hunting a food source, especially late season, if you can reach out and touch it with a gun. But you can't go into that knowing that you have to be able to sit right on top of it and thinking that you're going to get away from it time and time again. Because by the time this time of the year comes around, it's so powerful. You want that chance. And usually by this time of the year, it's so overpressured, the food sources are dwindled away to little to nothing, and folks aren't using good seed to begin with and good soil conditioning and stuff. And then what happens is they don't get to those food sources because maybe the food sources aren't there, right? But on the other hand of that, they don't daylight until they know season is done. So the trick is late season, where all that ties together, is kind of going back to early season strategies. So I don't hunt any PMs, or I don't hunt any AEM hunts. It's all PM focused hunts early season until about Halloween. Now, if you're viewing from the south, advance that a month, right? But I mean, the Midwest and the Northeast where you guys are at, and the North where I'm originally from, you're pretty. I like that October 27th date, right? You go back late season to those early season strategies, pull your AM hunts out of the card, go back to PM hunts. What that does is you're probably, if there is anybody hunting at all, because a lot of those numbers, right, a lot of hunter numbers dwindle away after the gun season, or bow hunters get tired and there's not a lot of people in the woods to begin with. But those you have to be able to have that PM mentality, unless there's a buck that you're targeting is just making a lot of mistakes in the morning into a place you can get in and you can get out untouched, without being untouched. Because if you continue to blow that situation out, the season to him never ends. Right? And the pressure never ends. Before you know it, clock ticks down, you're in that fourth quarter and you never get a chance to harvest him because he's nocturnal the entire season. So preseason or early season tactics are a lot of them spots that you're going to be, your food plot, your shot plots, right? With a gun, maybe late season muzzleloader, something you can touch out and reach those food plots, stuff like that. And then that's kind of where my mind goes to with late season. And then the pinnacle of it all is I think, just like it is during the pre-rut and the rut, I think a huge overlooked piece of the puzzle in late season is water. If you can keep it unfroze, right? Where the three of us are from, that's easier said than done. But here my water tanks are black and they collect heat, right? They're in them. They're 150 gallons at least. I would recommend, like I'm doing here at the farm, all mine are going to get updated to 300 gallons, but they absorb heat, right? And there's all kinds of things you can do. I've got some clients that put they take a milk jug or and paint it black and put a hockey puck in the bottom of the tank so it doesn't rub a hole in it. Leave enough rope that thing goes around. The wind blows that thing around in your tank. Keeps
from freezing.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff you can try to do, but being a black tank, and it would surprise you how much it keeps itself on out. So those strategies there. And then if you have to, swing for the fence, if you're down to last 2 hunts or whatever, and he's on that food source every night at daylight, then you have a chance to go in and do that. It's kind of a mesh, right? There's a lot of reasons folks don't get to experience the rut because the properties are blown out. There's a lot of times that the folks don't get to experience late season hunting because the food plots failed, out of our control sometimes, right? Drought or whatever happens. But I see the most of is the reason that folks don't get to experience the late season. Power of the late season is because food sources are blown out.
Gotcha.
So I try to do whatever I can do, knowing that because where I'm originally from in Michigan, that muzzleloader season in December, there's a lot of giant deer around the entire country killed in late season because they are going to get themselves in trouble rebounding from the rut and relying on their stomach. And the older they get, the more they rely on that after the rut.
Right.
So that's why there's a lot of those deer harvested. So it's a kind of that old thing, and you hear it, and I'm not the one that made this up, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. That whole mentality that you hear, and there's a lot of truth to that, right? That you got to be there at the end of the game to our family past is racing endurance racing snowmobiles on ice, right? And if you're not there at the end of the race, you don't have a chance to win. It doesn't matter how fast you were at the beginning of the race. If you're not there at the end of 500 laps, you're not going to win. So
you're right, definitely. I believe it's a marathon, not a sprint. Now, let me ask you real quick, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Are you basing your hunts on your food plots? Are you watching your cameras a lot, and you're basing what's in the food plots at night? Like, because when I hunt down Ohio, okay, like we get and this is a whole nother subject with the rut and deer leaving and all that. I mean, we could talk for hours about stuff like that, but like right now, we have a food plot down there. We have a water source in there. We dug it out, and then we have feeders there. And then I have another spot where I just dump, you know what I mean? And we're going to get to the baiting of the deer later. But are you basing this like when you're going in and coming out off of your cameras? Because I went nuts hunting cameras, and I know you can go crazy if you're hunting cameras. But I've also been sitting in areas with my cameras, and I've seen deer that I've never seen on my camera. So do you encourage people to hunt based on your camera sightings, or are you encouraging people to hunt just because it's off of your instinct, sort of, is what I'm going to say, because cameras can drive a guy crazy or a girl crazy.
You hit a sore spot for me with the cameras, and I know we won't mention the product that Chris had mentioned at the beginning of this, but that ties to this, right? So,
right.
And it's just not that manufactured. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of that going around the country right now. I'm hoping that I may have found something to help a lot of folks with, but it's been a struggle with the camera thing, and I'm not going to lie. And I think this whole world that we live in today, I don't want to say it's made us bad hunters, because technology, if your eyes are open and you're willing to accept that, right, it can be a great thing. Problem with it is you can't rely on you obviously are putting your cameras, like the way I design and the way we hunt, are licking branches or water holes, funnels, entrances and exits in and out of food sources, stuff like that. You're trying to do pinch points, right? You're trying to put those cameras in spots where you're hunting. There's no reason.
I call them the transition areas or the travel areas, like going from and to. That's where I try to keep my cameras. But it's so hard not to put a camera on your food source or on your bait pile or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
well, and I do have them there. Yeah, and I do have them there. Here in Kentucky, we're able to bait, and the reason that we do that, like we said, that's another topic. But I mean, it's there to back up the food sources, so I have a camera on it, right?
Yep.
You'd be crazy not to, because even if it's all dark pictures or they're out there chasing does in that social event area, right? They're there. So you'd be crazy not to know. But I know at some point of the night they're going to be in a food plot, and I know they're going to destination ag. That doesn't mean no good as far as a hunting strategy. My cameras are where my stands are. And if I can't hunt that spot, I don't have a camera there. because
Gotcha.
it does me no good to know that, hey, a buck, not unless you're a saddle hunter or mobile or something like that, right? But it does me no good to put a camera deep down in somewhere where I can't hunt and he's there, and then that's when people get themselves in trouble.
Gotcha. Yeah, when you're talking about like entering bedding and bedding areas and stuff like that too. I mean, there's a time. I guess that's another whole nother topic too. But there's a time and place to enter a bedding area also at times. But I see what you're saying. You don't want to put a camera in there if you're not going to be in there hunting.
Yeah, and that ties to the food plot thing, right? I mean, we hunt. We hunt our food sources during the gun season from afar. We can reach out and touch what I call service, right? You got to reach out and service your food plot, or you'd be crazy not to be able to reach out. Not all your gun stands are going to be that way, but if you can reach out and touch a food source, you'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
With bow, it's a different subject, like we talked before. The camera on there, though, there's so much that I'm not. Being in the industry that I'm in, my job is to put those cameras, or to teach people where to put the cameras to catch most of the activity, right? So I'm not going to say don't rely on your cameras at all, because that wouldn't be true. You have to rely on them. But hunting the camera is probably ruined more hunts around the country than it is good, because you're not capturing anything. Now, if the camera was 360 degrees on a food source or something like that, here's the problem though. Whether it's not in the spot that's catching it, more so, the worst side of it is you're not getting all the pictures that are on the camera. So at what point do you put full trust in the camera and not think outside the box and know that, so yes, you have to have a picture of him in that area, or you're better off somewhere else. But I wouldn't just strictly hunt the camera, so to answer your question in a roundabout way there, right, it's a huge piece of it. But I don't want to know, unless it's a gun situation, right, that I know if he gets in trouble coming to that field with a doe or whatever the case is, that's a piece of the puzzle. But my other cameras are on what I refer to as my transition, like we had talked when we were at your place.
Yep.
I'm big into a transition area, 360 degrees around that farm, and that's where my stands are at. So I'm actually hunting that deer in a different area where there's intel where he was at on the way. I don't want to. You can't kill him where he's at. You got to kill him where he was, or where he. You got to kill him on the way there. You got to harvest him on the way there. So.
Yeah, I think that's what people don't understand either, Josh, real quick. And like, you're hunting that travel area. So you're hunting them in a whole different environment, sort of like than the food plot. You're hunting him from bedding to feeding in that transition in between there, is what I'm saying, or the funnel or something like that. So it's a totally different hunting situation when you're actually in the woods in a travel route than you would be on a food plot, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I have, like, for example, I've got three of my food plots on the farm out of 5 have shot plots on the end of them, and two of those actually are huntable shot plots, right? The one I can just see from afar with a gun. The other one is actually has a archery stand on it, or bow stand on it, but and one has a water source. So not that we don't want that, but you want to hunt those, but each one of those has a camera. And the reason is I know he was at point A, then he was at point B, then we were at, he's going to spot C, right?
Okay.
But I think the biggest downfall is folks just put that camera on the food source, wait for that deer to show up. High pressure state, that deer might never show up in daylight. So
I know I've done it.
Your percentages go way in the toilet. There's so much around. There's so much more that goes on behind the scene, hunting downwind of bedding, or, downwind of doe, being behind your doe is not in front of them, all the stuff we teach, that if you're just on that food source and you're relying on that camera, you might get pictures of him an hour after dark, but you might have been able to hunt him, just because one thing to always remember is just because that deer didn't show up on a food plot and or a camera, right, until an hour after dark, doesn't mean he wasn't on his feet an hour before dark somewhere.
He's daylighting somewhere.
Correct. Yeah. It might not be on you, might be on the neighbors. Somewhere he was out of his bed an hour before dark, So if you just bank on that food plot hunting and the information that you're getting there, you could be missing a lot of the keys to
I've wasted so many days hunting and I've learned over the years of me sitting in stands trying to hunt that deer that I saw on the camera. And you spend a lot of time in the woods wasted if you're not, like you said, thinking out of the box or making your move, or like you even said, like getting behind the doe, because the doe are always bedding, closer to the food source than the buck. So you want to try to get behind that doe more and closer to the buck's. I always call it home range, but his bedding area or whatever. Like there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of factors involved with just, you see a deer on a camera. Okay, I'm going to hunt here. There's a lot of other things, like where's he coming from? Where's he going? Why is he traveling? What's the land terrain? What's the funnels, the bottlenecks, the transitions? Like there's so much more involved than just putting a camera out in the woods. You see a nice buck and then you're going to hang a stand there. Because I believe if you do that, your odds are not for you. They're more for the deer in that situation. And you want to obviously up your odds. So you got to, like you say, think out of the box and figure out his travel route. That's what it all comes down to in my eyes anyway.
Yeah. And that ties to camera, placement in general, right? Not just on a food plot, but camera placement in general. There are so many times that, taking the issue that we've had for years out of the equation of not getting pictures, but being in a stand and seeing deer behind the camera that the camera didn't catch. And the reason is they're J hooking into that. They're using their nose. They're seeing the scrape. They're looking at a food plot. They don't have to go there because they're using all three of their senses. The camera is only going to, collect one of their senses of sticking their face on a licking branch or on a scrape that's on. So a lot of that ties into that strategy. But yeah, it's, I see a lot, and a lot of my clients before I get to their properties do just that. I've got 3 cameras, I got 3 food plots, and that's where all my cameras are. When I leave, they usually end up buying 3 more cameras, or depending on how they sit,
you can never have enough cameras, And then you also mentioned, you just put in another 5 topics right there. What you just said with the J hooking and why the deer J hook and what they're doing and using senses. That's a whole nother issue. But that's another factor into hunting that buck. Is you trying to take advantage and be on the plus side of their senses instead of alerting them and everything. But like the J hooking and all that's a whole nother topic that we could always talk about later on. But it's just like the camera thing to me is, it's great to know they're in the area. They're in the area. But I've hunted Ohio for the last 20 years or so, and believe it or not, I've had more success on public than my lease right now. And we're baiting and we're doing things on a lease, but I'm learning how to hunt it because they go away, they come back and all this stuff. And we'll get into that topic with the second topic and third topic that we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's just totally, you have, like you said, you have to be on your game and you have to think out of the box to especially late season, because you do have an advantage, I think, in late season. Like I think early season is your best time to bag a big buck. We had this conversation in another live, was the rut is really hard to hunt. Like, because the deer are moving, especially the chase phase. Like good luck getting a buck to stop. You can almost do jumping jacks in your stand and that buck's on a doe. He ain't stopping. You may get lucky, say something or bleat or something at him and he stops and you get that chance, but most of your success is going to be early season on a food source, and I think late season. I don't want to say on a food source because it's sort of deflects what we're talking about, but travel routes to a food source early, and then your travel routes to a food source late. I think are your best chances of bagging a trophy animal, a mature animal, I should say.
Yep.
Chris, what are your thoughts on late season tactics?
Well, I mirror a lot of things that have already been said, to be honest, but and I do agree with the trail camera hype. I only own 6 of them myself, and a couple of them are on food sources, a couple of them are random transition zones out in public land and things. Just keeping an eye on what's going on. Like you said, it would be smart, or you would not be smart not to use them, but try to use them to your advantage. But there's also a demographic out there. And I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know how they would come up with this number, but they said that like a trail camera only catches like 11% of the activity out there anyhow. So, you know, you're going to miss a lot. So, you know, what you see is not really necessarily what's going on all the time. You know, there's a lot more happening behind the scenes, like you had already said. But all that said, I just had to agree with the trail camera thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the tactics that would be used on like private land. As you said, early season, sitting on a food plot, sometimes you can surprise them. They're not expecting you to be there because they're just out there gorging themselves all summer long, and then all of a sudden the season comes in one day and you're there. You know, so there is a certain surprise factor there to a food plot if you're going to sit on the edge of one, and that would be the time I would say to sit on one if you're going to sit on one. Early season, you're going to limit your chances though. All the times you better have a good entrance and exit strategy to get into that plot, because the more times you get down and you bump them out of that field on the way out, the less chances you're going to have later on, because they learn fast. Over hunting the same spot on that plot or around that plot could limit your factors also. Early on, I like to play around with mock scrapes and things and get them coming in on that. And the majority of my cameras were on my mock scrapes anyhow. Just saying. So early season, yeah, I do get around my plots a little bit. And that's private land now. Now that all changes for me when I hit public land, because I'm not out making mock scrapes for other people to hunt over. You know what I'm saying? I'm not spreading the wealth here. I'm looking to get me a buck. So it all changes when I hit public land. So my strategy goes there towards travel corridors between bedding and water, or bedding and food. And what I mean by that is where I hunt is so desolate because I go where people won't. And what I do is I look for the thickest cover I can find, because I also hunt the area for bear. So it's kind of a two-edged sword there. So I go for the thickest stuff, and the deer and the bear sort of like to frequent the same areas, believe it or not. And so I get in amongst that stuff, and where I hunt, like I was beginning to say, it is a large mountainous hillside that goes down to a river. So I capitalize on them wanting water, and actually there's a few shallow spots that they can ford the river and go across to the other side of the valley. So there's a lot of transition spots there. Up above me is a white oak flat that they like to frequent. So I like to be in between. I like to get in these zones and basically cut them off, man. Ambush them. That's what it's all about with the bow, you know. With the gun, like Josh was saying, man, be in some place where you can reach out and touch as far as you can. You know, whatever gun you're carrying, you know your gun, shoot your gun, practice, and be in a spot where you can reach out. I like to, on public land, once the shooting starts in gun season, I like to be in areas too where they like to run for safety. I get and I back myself up against a posted zone, because believe it or not, no, they can't read, but you swear they can read those posted signs, and they will run for that safe haven of an area. And sometimes that'll work for you. And as what happened to me this year, I was pleasantly surprised that the buck I shot came out of the posted and was headed for public.
Wow.
So it totally surprised me. So you can't bank on everything in your head being 100% correct. Sometimes you get surprised and pleasantly blessed.
Yeah, well, for sure, you definitely got to be in the woods to get them. I know that.
Oh, yeah,
I know that much.
Sure.
I know that much.
Yep,
so.
Can't be sitting on that couch.
Cool.
But yeah, I hunted every day of the season this year, even if it was just 4 hours after work or 3 hours, whatever I could put in. And I was being very picky. I had it, my target buck was shot by a little girl with a crossbow, which is okay. Which is okay. I'm all right with that. I didn't shed any tears, and I'm not bitter anymore.
Well, at least you knew about it and weren't
anymore.
hunting. At least you weren't hunting a ghost. You know what I mean? You knew about it at least. Some people don't know.
When I was down in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and the night I shot my humongous Sika buck, which I didn't know what I got there, but someone said this thing's huge, so I was happy. But I was scrolling Facebook sitting in the hotel that night, and I said to the guy I was with, I was like, "You ain't gonna believe this, but I think this is my target buck right here," you know. And so, and then I started scrolling through the comments, and sure enough, it was across the road from my destination plot.
Nice.
Wonder where he was eating.
Yeah, really.
So he spent a little too much time on the opposite side of the road and got torched. Yeah. So I didn't have a whole lot to look forward to in archery. So I was being real picky, and I did a lot of public land hunting, and seen a ton of deer this year in the public land. But when you get out into the public land, there's not a whole lot of antler size to pick from. So I passed on a ton of bucks, and it paid off though. When gun season came, and I shot a very nice buck with the gun. I would have loved to have done it with a bow, but this year I dusted off the gun, and that's what we did.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Got in a transition zone. I picked a heavy trail. The season came in on a Saturday. I was there Friday morning setting up a ladder stand, and went in there and surprised them. Yeah, and that's what it was about.
But that's like I said, like, everybody, it's so easy to set up on a food plot. I mean, it's just, that's like your first, if you asked 100 hunters, I'm going to say 90 of them are going to say, if they got a picture of a buck in a food plot, they're setting up on a food plot. Yeah. But you got to do that little bit more homework and follow that deer back to get him earlier. You know what I mean?
It's definitely about food in the late season, but a lot of people think they have to sit on the edge of a wood line, on the edge of a plot, and it's not always going to work out for you. Sometimes you'll get lucky, but I think the travel zones, the corridors, the areas between bedding and their destination is where to cut them off.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about this now, but I'm going to talk to Josh about it later on, or maybe we'll do another live later. But like when I hunt Ohio, I have a lot of questions for Josh because I want to show him the way of the land and what we're doing, because in the rut, we know they were there. We were getting pictures at night, but we have like feeders up and like the corn and everything. And then we have the food plot, we have the water. So we have everything there, but we have 250 acres down there. Now, every year, it seems like around the rut, those deer go away. Now, you will catch other deer coming through that are traveling that weren't on the cameras and stuff like that. But when you have a target buck that you've been watching all summer and it just disappears, you're almost like scrambling, like, okay, do I shoot a new buck that comes in, or am I waiting this buck out? It's like so hard. It's like a mind game. And we have deer leave our property. Like, we don't see them. And then the late season with the food, like, because we have the feeders there, we have the food plot. My buddy does. I don't have a food plot where I hunt. I just basically dump stuff out in corn piles and minerals and stuff like that. So I set up a blind there for late season. So if I have to put a heater in there, I got a heater in there so I could sit all day and stuff like that. But we always do that also, what Josh mentioned earlier. We don't hunt a lot of the AM, anymore. Like, we'll sleep in a little bit and get out there 10 o'clock and try to put a full day in after 10, but we don't really base our hunts off of that AM hunt anymore, unless the camera shows that they're on in there at light, in the morning at 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever. Then we would get up and go down and hunt them. But, and like you said, you can't believe the cameras, everything. Them deer could walk 20 yards to the right of that camera every day and you would never catch them. So, it's just a matter of experience and being in the woods, I think, and knowing your deer. But when we have the deer leave, it's usually like now, maybe it was gun season in Ohio this past weekend. This weekend's the last day of gun season down there. So now we sort of, my buddy's down there right now. The weather was bad. I didn't go down this weekend. I had some other plans, but from here on out is where we just want it to go back to sort of a normal thing, once things settles down, and then they start hitting our food again and our bait piles again. And then that's when you got the cold hunts is what I call them. That's when you're sitting there and waiting for them in the, 20-degree weather, 10-degree weather, but they're going to be on that food at some point. Yeah. So that's how we hunt. So
can I add?
There's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, you hit a lot of good points there. It's my thing is there. Not to interrupt you, Chris. I'm sorry, but the thing I always teach folks is this: is in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very few places out of 80 clients that do a year, right? Very, very, very few times is a AM on or near a food source productive. And the reason for that is because they're leaving that. So you've already started, when you get to that stand, you're already hunting instead of 80% opportunity, you're hunting 20%. So then out of that 20%, did you get in there clean?
Mm-hmm.
So then it knocks to 10% because usually
your odds are against you at that point.
I'm not a church mouse in the woods, So I mean, you have to really, so you start with 20%, go to 10% real quick. I'm not into hunting 10% opportunities. I want to be in the spot where it's 70, 80% opportunity, and it sounds crazy to folks. Like I always tell people, I love hunting, but I don't want to be in the woods for no reason. I want to be there. I've got a job to do, right?
Well, your time is it's like time is money type deal. So your time, you don't want to waste your time in the woods. You want to get out there when your odds are for you. You know what I mean?
And I think it's just food sources are very attractive when we all know they're going there. But that's what this time of the year, late season, is the emphasis is. I recommend looking at that PM hunt because if you don't blow them out in the morning, your PM hunt could be very, very successful because they're going to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can cut them off on the way to it, or you can see that with a gun. But if you bump them going in the morning, you're probably going to mess up that PM hunt. So then you go the next morning, and all of a sudden, it's before you know it, they're not there. They're somewhere else.
You're done. Now, I wanted to ask Josh something real quick. Now, do you believe that, like me not having a food plot and me baiting, and we have that coming up, but like that food source that I have, okay, do you believe at that time of the season, how we always have the doe or bed, like I'm referring to a food plot right now. You know how the doe bed closer to the food plot and the buck bed behind them, okay? And the thicker, they let the does basically go out and check for them is what I always say. You have scouts. The buck are letting the doe get out there and then they're coming, okay?
Yep.
Do you believe, like, if I'm dumping bait piles out down there, will the bucks bed closer to those bait piles late season to get there before the other deer or before the doe now because they need that food? They want to get there before because it's like a little more critical late in the season than it is early in the season because there's so much browsing things out for the deer where they don't really have to. They don't have to be there before the other deer get to it. Like, do I create something when I'm dumping out there and they know, like, oh, that's going to be gone if I don't get there first? Is there some sense to that, if you know what I mean?
There is, and the way to look at that is always remember that a deer's intake, right, never drops below their woody browse intake, never drops below 50%. So where you guys are from or where I'm originally from, it's like 90% of a deer's intake is woody browse.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with that is most properties, whether it's sometimes it's leased and you can't private land, right? You can't manipulate it because you don't own it, or you own it, but the timber isn't correct and it's choked off the daylight. There's, it's a big, beautiful canopy and big, beautiful hardwood, but there's no food.
Yeah. You can see a mile down in through the woods.
Yeah. If you have a food, if you have corn or a bait pile so private land first, right? If you have that, those deer are already bedded where the first habitat is. They don't know property lines.
Mm-hmm.
They know contour, they know edge, they know pressure. So if that food source, that whether it's a corn pile or a food plot, is pressured and there's no browse around it, your does are going to find the first correct habitat. And then during the pre-rut and a rut, your bucks are always behind them. So that could be a mile away from that bait pile, right? So you're spending all day on a bait pile for the last 10 minutes, hoping and praying that you see something before it gets too dark to shoot. It's a waste of time, right? So, but the perfect place to be is if you're going to use that, right, use the corn, is to try to be somewhere where the habitat is more correct. And the reason for that is is your does, just like a food plot, right? Your does want to bed within that first 100-yard rim of that food source. Our goal is, our job is to place them on the right side of that food source so you can get in and out. So your, like Chris touched on, is your, entrance and exit plans have to be bulletproof, because they don't know property lines. Just because it's the property line to us doesn't mean it's to them. They're going to go where the habitat's correct. And if your habitat is on your access, that bait pile that you're creating has a 100-yard bubble around it, and the does are in there. And if it's not there, it could be a quarter mile, half mile, and all of a sudden, somewhere in that bubble, when you're getting into that corn pile this time of the year, you're going to blow that situation out. They know you're there, right? So thicker, Chris was saying, the thicker the spot, the better. That's a no-brainer any time of the season. But like public ground hunting in states like northern Michigan, upper peninsula Michigan, where it's public ground and you can bait, right? That's where you want to be. At that point, the more secluded it is, furthest away from pressure, you have a better chance of bucks bedding closer to it.
Gotcha.
If it's the only food, and it depends. It's regional, right? Like the UP of Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, parts of Pennsylvania, the southern tier of New York, rugged areas where there's no or there's lower deer numbers, then you have a better chance of one of those deer being a buck that beds closer to that food source, because it's not so drama dominated that's running everybody off, right? But if it's private land. If it's private land and you're doing that, well, they're usually overpressured, right? So your does are not getting to the food sources. The bucks are not getting there because they're so much farther away. So it all goes back to pressure, right? And this time of the year on that corn pile, like that, with that that situation that you had explained there. Yes, it could be a buck that beds closer. More pressure you apply, further away from that bait he is, because they have been so early season food source, right? Chris hit that perfect ambush, right? They don't know you're there. They're so used to going to that food source time and time again early season. Why in the world would you want to interrupt that? But you want to pounce on it, right? You want to be in that shot plot, and surprise them before they get to that destination. Once they're in my food plots, guys, it's a sanctuary. I treat my food plots like I treat my bedding areas. Once they're in there, they're safe. It's home plate. You're not. It's their own world. I don't, unless you're going to reach out and touch them with a gun. But so it all goes back to pressure. But I mean, in closing on that topic, I guess my 2 cents is, I would err on the side of caution with that. I would, if it's a bow situation late season and it's a corn situation, maybe look at using that corn pile as your food plot, right? Putting it in an area, putting it in a more open setting where you can hunt the thick, dense area going to that. Depending on your deer numbers, maybe you bring that into the thick of it with you. I hope that makes sense, but I mean, bring it into the thick of it with you so the deer are better closer. But if you're in a dense area where the habitat's more correct, you got to get in and out without getting busted.
Right? That's the thing down there, Josh, is like I had a spot picked out. It's in like a thicket almost. It's really thick. It's on a corner of a field, like transitions like field edge and what I call soft edge into the field. The field has a lot of autumn olive. They love it in Ohio. The autumn olive, they bed near until the leaves come off and the berries are dropped. They're in there feeding even, like in the summertime, they're feeding on the leaves and whatnot. But they like that to bed. But I have an area that's, you can't see it. It's not hard to get into. I can make it an easy access to get in. The only problem with that is there's only one way in and one way out. So I don't do it right there because that was my first instinct. Put it in the thickest stuff I can, have them feel safe in the thickets. You can't even see them coming into there. And I got them. But then I'm thinking, well, if I only could walk in one way and walk out one way, all they got to do is figure me out on that and I'm done. I already lost. So why do that? So I got a spot where I can come in from the right, I can come in from the left, depending on the west wind is the dominant wind down there. So when I go into it, I'm not messing with any of the stuff. I get in and I come down into my stand and I don't interrupt anything. It's like I'm on like a gas line that I go in that's usually cut because the gas people keep it cut. So I walk up that, I go in the woods about 20 yards to my left and I jump into the blind and I'm there. So I don't disturb any of the woods down below me, which is upwind of me. The west wind's coming into my face. So I got all that wind. I'm downwind of where my bait pile is and all the stuff that they're into and bedding. So that's a perfect situation if I have a west wind.
Yep.
So I just started doing the wind about 10 years ago because, if you don't hunt the wind, the people say, you have your cover scent, you have your ozonics. There's always your scent out there. The wind is your best ally in, hunting. So
remember this in that you hit a topic there that I'd just like to shed some light on, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in an area like public ground or big woods setting, like where you guys are at, right? PA,
yeah.
A lot of that around there.
Yeah.
You have to remember baiting is a lot like using scents, like lures, right? Okay. The only way that a scent on a mock scrape or a bait pile with a scent, the aroma is going to work is if they're downwind of it. Yeah. You're downwind of it, but you're only 25 yards from it with a bow. So unless there's something behind you that they can't get behind you, don't think for a minute they're not going through 200 yards behind you to smell
figure
it. Right?
It out.
The bigger the woods the setting is, the worse that case is. So if I'm in a big wood setting, I'm looking for something, a big canyon or something to blow wind into, a ditch, a pond, a swamp, whatever that case is, to keep that wind, to keep that free and force that situation for them to have to come. They have to get that's where they get themselves in trouble because they're coming in on angling winds to it or something instead of it being all in their favor. So yeah, I guess on that line, I guess if it's a situation where you've got the power or the service line behind you, mulch or whatever, maybe they don't want to expose themselves in it, so that kind of keeps you.
But there is like you just hit a point though, because there's wood. I have a stand set up behind me 300-400 yards. Yep. So it's like if they want to, they could get behind me because I'm over the hill a little bit. They could get behind me and scent check that, just like they're doing a mock scrape. They go 80-90 yards away from a mock scrape. And then we touched on that J hook. Like you got to be set up off of that J hook to catch them coming into a mock scrape. If you're not seeing them on that mock scrape, you want to set up in that like J hook area. Same thing with a food plot or a food pile. Then you have to hunt it the same way, because if I'm sitting in my blind downwind 30 yards away from my bait pile, but the wind's blowing this way, if they want to check that bait pile and see if anything's going on, they're behind me and I'm looking at, so that all makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it does make sense for sure. We had a situation this year. My buddy's in his blind and he wasn't seeing deer. We were getting pictures of in his food plot. They were coming to the feeder, but during the day he'd hunt it, nothing. Well, he wasn't getting pictures because they were skirting the food plot or they were coming behind, and that's downwind of him. So they were coming from behind him, skirting the food plot, weren't coming in. So they're probably catching some kind of wind behind him. They want to still go to where they want to go, but they just avoid that area. They know. So they avoid that area by 80-90 yards. They walk this little dam. I call it a dike area because it's like a hill. They walk the side of that and you won't even know that the deer were there because your camera's set up. And then at night, you're not there. They swing around and they come in and feed, so.
When you're on private ground, those are all things when we design a property, right, that we can manipulate as private landowners. And we can force them to be where we want them to be with bedding area improvements, with building that transition that I speak of, making your access clean. That's all stuff that we can do on private land that we're kind of spoiled, right? Yeah. Public ground or big wood setting or leased ground or stuff like that, you don't have that. So you really have to stop and think before you put a corn pile in front of you or estrus in front of you. Yep. Who's reading it from where?
Well, exactly. And like, that's why it's so hard to do. But I'm sort of doing that more. Like my mock scrapes aren't 20 yards so I can shoot to them. my mock scrapes are 50 yards away from me now. You know what I mean? Like I extended that distance if I'm downwind, because just in case something comes in downwind, like hunting the wind. So yeah, I'm learning that too. And if anybody's in here, like, you know, think of that stuff, like what Josh is saying, because a deer will scent check 100 yards away. I mean, he'll go downwind to check it. He don't have to come into the scrape to check it. Or like you said, food. He can walk behind you 100 yards. You would never know he's there, you know? So I started putting my scrapes further out. I still like to see them. Just for me being a hunter, I like to see the mock scrape. So it's 50 yards out. But I used to hunt 20 yards in front of me. My scrape was, I had it there with my scent tripper and everything. Something comes in, I'm going to shoot it right there. Well, just from the experience and the knowledge that I've got over the years, I could be missing deer 60 yards behind me, 100 yards behind me, scent checking out without even coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's one thing for my designs, which you guys know, you know, because I went over it with you guys. And
yeah,
I mean, that's so in my designs, that's how I cheat that system, right? Is my licking branches, I don't have them unless I can shoot them, right?
Yeah.
Now with a gun, if you shoot 100 yards, hit one or whatever the case is, right? But all of mine preferably are at 25 yards. And the way that you cure that is if that licking branch or the bait pile, let's just use it as an attraction, the foam booth, right? The post where they're going.
Yep.
If that's the only thing they're reading, if that's the only thing that you're hunting, that's the only thing that they're scent checking, they will get downwind of that they live and die by that sense, right? They're going to J-hook into it. That's where my designs come in, as we are building that habitat each side of it that they're reading before they get there. So it's not just the licking branch. It's habitat that's correct before they get there. You know, if you're public ground, then you got to search for those areas that are clear cuts or habitat that, like, you know, Chris was saying earlier, some thick spots. You got to find that and be downwind of it that are natively there. Maybe you can build it where you're hunting, maybe you can't. But if you're interior of that and you're just hunting a licking branch or just a bait pile, they're going to come into that. So at that point, yeah, that's probably a good idea to put it out 50 yards, because they're going to come into it from the downwind side when you're there to hunt them.
Yeah.
They're there to smell it, you know, but that's where the power of what I do for folks is.
Yeah, but that's what you do.
You do that on angling wind. So they're reading doe bedding, they're reading habitat pockets, they're reading licking branches, they're going into water holes. It's all daisy chained together instead of it just being one. I'm going to sit on a licking branch in the middle of 100 acres. And that licking branch is the holy grail, and I'm going to kill him at that licking branch. Well, good luck. You better hope that the habitat correct on each side of you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so hard. Like when you start putting in all those factors, you know what I mean? Like it's really a puzzle. You got to put the pieces of the puzzle together. That's just hunting in general.
The whole golden rule there is to make them feel comfortable. They have to come in there and feel comfortable. See, that's one of the things I'm kind of glad PA doesn't have the baiting, because it's kind of unnatural. Well, it's real unnatural. I mean, you can't just put out a bait pile and, you know, they come in hesitant and they'll look up, you know, they know something's not natural. You know, if I was allowed to bait and I was going to be using corn or something, I would be sprinkling it out, throwing it out in handfuls, letting it get underneath whatever browse there is and make them forage for it naturally, head down, you know. I don't know.
Or on a food plot. Yeah, or on a food plot. With you put that much emphasis in your food plots, right, Chris? And that's what I teach is none of my feeders, none of my corn that are on none of that is in the woods or it's on my food plots. And the reason it's on my food plots is to back that food plot up when your food plot fails. It's a part of your food plot program, right? It's not like you said, it's not in a pile. It's spread out all over.
And this is why I don't watch hunting programs on cable television.
Yeah.
Is because if you notice, they come in, they're all head down and they're just, you know, picking around and whatever. Well, you know, they spread bait out there. You know, they've been invited somewhere. Someone's called them up and said, "Hey, I got this big one coming in to the bait. Come, let's shoot this thing, put it on TV."
What do you mean, the brown horse feed that they throw out there to make it look like dirt on the ground?
That, I mean, even corn. I mean, sometimes you can see the corn in the video. You know, I mean, I just think they've got the public duped.
Yeah, I mean, that ties into your last, topic there that we touched on earlier that we're going to speak of, the baiting. But I mean, I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
I'm against where
whatever's
a lot
legal
of
is
people,
legal. Yeah.
where people put it is my thing is I don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, if it's legal in your area, it's like a legal buck rate, whatever you want to, if it's legal and you want to use it, great. My program is to teach where to put it.
Yeah.
and how
Make
to
it
use
more natural.
And that's what I need to learn. I'm actually, I'll admit it. I need to learn where to put the bait piles. Watching the land, seeing entrances, exits of the deer, how they use the land, and where to put my bait pile. Not just going in saying, "Oh, that's a great tree," dumping a 50-pound bag of corn out and saying, "Okay, I'm putting my tree stand there," and I'm expecting to get a mature buck on that bait pile. I have to learn that outside stuff. You know what I mean?
If you're going to do that, that's just, you might as well be sitting on a food plot. As I tell everybody, if in or Ohio, where you were talking earlier, is a perfect situation. Ohio is full of big timber. Kentucky is one of them, where we're at, right? Full of big timber. Yes, you're going to get a lot of daylight pictures if you put a corn pile in the woods.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. You're in their world. It's not a natural food source. And unless yes, it's going to happen. They get themselves in trouble. A bunch of outfitters do it. Yeah, right. But I mean, unless you can get dropped off at the stand with a side-by-side that they're used to, and you get picked up at that stand, you're going to blow deer getting into that. Because if you have bait in the middle of the woods, it's not natural. And don't think for a minute that they don't know it's a corn pile.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, and they're going to bed the natural browse that's within that 100-yard rim. That's where they're going to bed. The does want to be. They know you're in there.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It works. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's outfitters around the country that do it, and that's their strategy. Every tree stands on a corn pile, and that's how they hunt. And more power to them. But there's so much more. I use it. It's a huge tool. But like in Kentucky, if they outlaw corn tomorrow, it's not going to affect the way I hunt at all, because I'm just using it on my food plots to back them up if and when they do fail, or we get 8 out of house and home.
Yeah, I got you. Now that's good, because I only started hunting bait piles in Ohio like the last couple of years. You know what I mean? So learning how to hunt a bait pile is a big thing. It ain't just like like I said, you go in and dump and you hunt it. You think you're downwind or whatever. But I've noticed the deer that come into those bait piles, their senses seem like they're so much more on key. You're in their world. They know that's unnatural. So their senses, I mean, I've seen deer circle. I've seen deer stay out and wouldn't come in, or they would come in and back out and come back in later. And, I've seen so much stuff happen on a bait pile. Like, I've got a lot of videos that show my bait pile down, in Ohio. The deer will come in. They won't go to the bait pile. They walk back and they circle it, and they don't want to go in. And
I think Chris can probably attest to this. If you go into that public area that you were speaking of, Chris, that's away from everybody. I'm not going to say deer don't know who people are, but the further you get back, maybe the more mature deer are away from it. They're not drawn, but people push them into those areas. You put feed in there, you could probably talk a buck into daylighting because he's not pressured. But if you are hunting a high pressured state like New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, you're hunting them states. You're hunting pressured deer. You could own 640 acres, and you're hunting pressured deer, and you could be doing everything right because everyone around you is pressuring deer. They're built for pressure. They know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A corn pile in the woods is that giveaway.
That's a red flag to them.
Exactly. Yep.
For sure.
Cool. All right. Well, that is our first topic. We have 2 more now. I'm going to go right into the baiting, because we're already talking about sort of the baiting and stuff like that. So we've been talking about baiting mixed in with this anyway. So overall, what Josh, if you could tell the people in the chat what you would do to bait, like what the signs are, like almost of what we just talked about. Give them a rundown of, if you're going to dump bait in your woods, what are you looking for, and what's your best scenario? Like, what would you recommend if somebody who hasn't baited before got a lease in Ohio and they want to bait? So what would you recommend them doing?
First and foremost, if you're looking for, and this is one of those, giving a product a plug, right? But I do not like raised, elevated, I call them machine gun corn feeders. The thing goes off, your neighbors can hear it go off, right?
I got you.
for that, so first and foremost, we use them real wood production log trough feeders
And
for
I
that
like
reason,
them. They're
because
awesome.
it looks like a log. It's on the ground. They're used to grazing. It looks like, it looks natural, as natural as it can look, right? It keeps it keeps your corn dry. We put them, but like I said, if you're going to put them, so first and foremost, that's how I would do it. It's a health standard, right? Putting it on the ground in a pile, it molds. You're not, yes, it's an attractant, but you do not want your deer eating vom toxins. Going back to my days as a hog, a show hog farmer, vom toxins are hugely detrimental to the reproductive system of females, right? So it's like, you don't want that in their system. So like Chris was saying, spread it out over a large area, or put it in a dry feeder. The volume that comes out of it, they eat it, and it's healthier, it's drier, right? So that's the biggest thing. The reason is I don't use them upright feeders, guys, is because it's bigger than them. It'll blow your mind. How many times have you seen it? You put you put an upright feeder, or even just putting a pile out, and you can't get mature bolts of daylight on it because it doesn't look natural. Everybody else is doing it. When they see that feeder, they're anticipating noise. They're anticipating getting shot at when they're coming into it. You got to do something different. So first and foremost, that's a tip, right? Now, the second thing is, if you let's say you lease a property. The reason I could, speak on this is because some of my clients lease properties and just want me to help them withstand assemblage, right? And then maybe talk a landowner into letting them put a food plot. But if you're a landowner, and you have a place to put a food plot, of course, do that. But if you don't, right, and you have to find a spot that's a social area, whether that's an opening in the timber or a section of that where you can put the bait and treat it as a food plot. Treat it the same way you would a food plot.
Okay.
My recommendation is put it there. If you can, put it in one of the log trough feeders, put it there, and make it a sanctuary. Treat it as a food plot. The only time that you go into it is to fill the feeder once every 3 weeks or once a month, whatever that case is, right? And hunt the movement going to it. The biggest piece of the puzzle here, though, is don't be between feed and bedding. That's a huge strategy, right? I want to be between food and bedding. That's what you hear. That's true. I want to be between buck bedding and the food source, or buck bedding and doe bedding. I don't care to ever see another. Yeah, it's great to see deer, right? But I don't want to see 20 deer at night. If I have a client reach out to me and tell me that they're seeing 20 deer a night, they're the greatest set they've ever had, they see 20 deer tonight. It's like, well, we got work to do, because what that tells me is you're in front of the does.
Okay.
You're on the food source, or you're in front of the doe movement. So there's habitat that they're going to. What that tells me is if you're in front of the doe movement, your bucks are quarter mile behind them. Right. So you got to find that piece in between that. So if you treat that corn pile, and it could be in the timber, right? It could be a ridge top in the timber, right? Whatever that case is, that your access is good past it, that you can go past it along a fence line and hunt the rest of the farm and get in and out, like Chris was saying, without blowing deer, creating that pressure, right? Whether it's a bait pile, whether it's a food plot, guys, if you put it somewhere and it does more harm than good, you wasted your time. You did more harm on a private piece of property than you did good. So don't have it at all. I'd rather you see you not use it at all than put it in a place where you're going to create pressure.
Yeah.
So put it in the timber. You can't put a food plot, treat it as a food plot. Hang a camera on it so you know what's in the area. Preferably a cell cam, right? But put it in that spot. Don't hunt it. Don't pressure it. Hunt the movement going to and from it.
Gotcha. That
piece of the puzzle alone will take a property and make it 50% better. Whether it's a corn pile, baiting, or a food plot, not pressuring that food source it's a 50% increase in production. Hunting.
Cool. Good to know. No, that's good to know. That's good to know. Chris?
That's my 2 cents in it anyway.
Okay. No problem. Chris, what do you think?
To be honest, I don't really think about baiting too much, because I don't go anywhere where I can bait.
Okay.
But what I was saying earlier was, yeah, if I was going to do it, I would spread it out, because I don't see I don't see why a deer would come to a 3-foot section of poured whatever when if you spread it all out, they can come forage around, because deer don't like to be head down on each other like hogs,
Yeah.
trying to eat. They like to be spread out. Like even in the food plots, I like to put in a lot of screening, rows of screening and stuff, and the deer will filter into these plots and things, and they like that buffer zone. Like, did you ever see like a mama come in with some fawns, and another mama will come in with fawns, and two mamas come together and they want to fight. They want to push off. They don't want to be near each other. They like that buffer zone. So, like food wise, if I would be spreading it out. Not only is it more natural to let them forage for it, and like Josh said, it's not going to rot. They're probably going to pick it up a little easier. I mean, that's my 2 cents. I don't know a whole lot about baiting.
Yeah, just from knowing you, I know you don't do it, so you really don't.
I mean, I can't.
There's no need
I'm in
for it.
PA. I mean, I don't do any bait, and I don't go to Ohio. So when I go to New York or Maryland can bait, but I was down there Sika hunting. I mean, you can't bait there, and it was in a natural in a refuge anyhow. So there's no baiting there. So
I don't think that it's a heated topic, right? I think you'd agree with that, Chris. Whether you use baiting or not, it doesn't take very long to flip on YouTube and you want to talk about a heated topic. There's two things: youth hunting and baiting deer. I mean, I can have 25,000 views on a YouTube channel or a YouTube video real quick by using baiting and youth hunting, and your channel blows up. I don't do a lot of it because it's a huge controversy and I don't have time to deal with it, but it's not so much of what it does. It's where you put it, right? It's not that it's bad for the deer and all the deer are going to die if they're baiting and it's unethical or whatever. My thing is, it's how you do it. You're actually making a situation worse a lot of times when you think you're gaining by having food plot or a corn pile, right, and making it attractive. You're actually making your hunt worse.
That's why I keep saying it's got to be natural. It's got to be more natural. You got to make them comfortable to come to it. I get it, even though I don't bait. I get that. But I don't have, and this goes back to my opening statement. I don't BS about it because I don't know much about it and I don't do it. So I don't really have a good comment for it. All I was saying was, make it as natural as you can and use it to your advantage if it's legal. And I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah. Well, like my situation, like from hunting down Ohio without baiting for a long time, I've seen more deer in the woods, like without the bait, to be honest with you, like, cause I bait now. In my last 2 videos you guys seen, I mean, I passed up a really nice 8 point. I had 7 points, 10 points. I had a bunch of deer come into the bait 20 yards away from me. But the bigger deer were not showing up. It was like, I call them rogue deer. They were traveling through, and it seems like we never had these deer on camera, but they all knew where the bait pile was. Do you know what I mean? Like, we never had pictures of these deer. They were all new. And I even asked my buddy who's down there, he has a house down there, and he's down there a lot more than I am in the summer. He never seen those deer that I saw that day, that Saturday, that 10 point, 7 point, and the 8 point. And I'm still kicking myself in the behind for not shooting the 8 point, but he's never seen those deer ever on camera. So, but those deer came in just like they were heading to the bait pile, like they knew it was there. So that just goes to show you right there. And he has a camera on that thing all year, but they were in the area and they knew where the bait pile was, But I've seen more deer without bait than I have bait, but I'm starting to bait a little bit now. And I'm just wondering, like, should I even do that? Taking Josh's advice and stuff like that and just saying, like, what, maybe just why waste the time and money on the bait and just start hunting just like I used to hunt, basically back to old school, hunt the travel routes, the thick cover, go back to stuff like that again, because am I really hurting my area by baiting? You know what I mean? And that's the thing to think about.
One thing that I get a lot with my clients is, should I do it? Right, that's a huge question. Should I bait or should I not? I've got Western Kentucky is a perfect example. Just had this conversation with a client of mine, a good friend of mine, not too long ago. He's got 300 acres, and there's 200-acre chunks, 300-acre chunks around him, and he wasn't, maybe he would put a little bit out here, a little bit there, but he wasn't part of the corn craze, right? Let's say. The problem with that is this: if you're in an area that's doing it, and you're not doing it, you are not going to see someone's going that corn is very attractive. Okay, so the attraction part of it's going to attract the does. If you don't have that, if no one else around you is doing it, then maybe you don't have to do it. But if everybody in the community is doing it and you're the guy not doing it, you have to have all the other pieces of the puzzle
together, because overall you want the does in your area. Correct. Come game time, you know what I mean?
So I would say that is if you're in a community that does it, or if you're part of a down south the hunting clubs, let's say, right, and everybody else is doing it, you probably want to do it. You're just gonna do it smarter than everybody else is doing it, right?
No, I get it. Okay, cool.
I would be interested to know too, like, what if there's no ag in the area and no one grows corn and you're putting out corn piles?
There's no, in my area, Chris, down there is nothing. It's all cow pastures. They put cows in these areas. There's no food, soybean, corn, or anything anywhere.
So how do they react to the corn? I mean, is it a huge draw? I mean,
we've seen, you've seen all the pictures and stuff we get at night and during the day too. I mean, it does attract, the corn's attracted. Now in the summer, we don't use corn, we use minerals. I use minerals throughout the summer because it lasts longer and it's cheaper on your wallet to throw, a 20-pound thing of minerals out there to get pictures, to get an inventory. But then come hunting season, like September, early September, you start putting that food out there now. And then, you're getting, but my buddy had pictures all summer of a few monsters, and then hunting season comes, they're gone. We didn't see a picture. Now, later in the season, like I'm talking about now, we get some bucks starting to show back up, like they left the area and they're coming back. Now, I was pertaining all that stuff to the rut. They're out looking for does off of that property. That property that we have, it's 250 acres. It may not be there. They don't want to be there at that time of the year because a deer's going to be where a deer wants to be. Like land and all that. You can't force a deer to stay in your area. It's going to be where it wants to go and feel safe.
Right.
So we have private property adjacent to us, which nobody hunts. And it's we call that our sanctuary, but we're trying to draw them from there to our property. But in the rut, they're gone. Like the big bucks are gone. You know what I mean? And then they seem to come back later at that food and them corn piles. Yep. So I don't know. Like I'm still in that juggling phase of, I guess what Josh said, if everybody's doing it, and down there's a lot of people doing it because there ain't no cornfields and farm fields with food in it. It's all strip mines and cliffs and hills. Now they got thousands of acres to go to. So the genetics are there, you know what I mean? Like they can live, they get old down there, you know what I mean? So that's why the genetics are so good down there, why they have big bucks, but they just go away. That, after that October, that Halloween week, it seems like they start going away. Now you'll get the rogue bucks coming through that like I've seen, but other than that, they're gone until like late season when they want to get back on the food, and we have the food there, so they know to come back.
Well, in our area, it seems like they flicked the switch and turned them off. I mean, literally for the last 2 weeks, it's like they were on lockdown on does or something, and they're just now starting to move again naturally. Like I went Thursday and today and went and collected all my stands up, and deer are out cruising again. Like I was bumping deer all over the place, just going and getting my stands, and there's no one in the woods hunting. So they're starting to get back to natural, to the
but
maze.
It's just, it blows my mind, Josh, how they disappear on you and then show up again.
You can tie, so whether you believe in the October lull or not, right? Or what your version of the October lull is. October lull is very real, right? But it's pressure. You could actually say that there's a feeder lull or a lull, right? Because people Chris just hit it perfect. I mean, that's the perfect testament. Nobody's in the woods. The pressure leaves. The weather's right. The deer are back out on their feet. So it's the same thing with feeders. just make sure you're not making the situation worse by, like you were saying, the bucks are there all summer. You start feeding, all of a sudden their natural change happens and they go into cruise modes, and that contour takes them elsewhere, and they're moving around your whole community. But a lot of the reasons, not everybody's reasons, but a lot of the reasons is they know them. You're in the woods, right? You're in there, you're filling the feeders, you're in there hunting over top of them. It's pressure. Take the feeder out, take the food plot out, or put it in the right spot. Deer back.
Yeah. My feed is my plots. Obviously, I mean, I plant blends that will feed them 365.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is you've got the things for the fall, your brassicas and your big leafy things, and then you've got your grains and your clovers and things that are going to be the first thing to pop up in the spring green up. And there's a certain moisture content involved also with the greens. And like Josh was saying, their main staple is the browse. But in my area, there's no agriculture and there's no water supplies really. So they're getting their moisture content in their green. And after they need that to digest correctly, the rumen in their stomach, they're four chambered like a cow, and they need to eat that greens and get that moisture content to help digest all that woody browse. I mean, how would you be eating leaves all day, dry leaves, and then you're going to need a drink, man. So, I mean, this is a lot of times where they get that moisture from if they don't have a good source of water. And
that's why I believe late season water is a key factor in late season. I really do.
I mean, they're on the recovery. They're run down. They've been chasing. They start coming back to the food sources, building back up, getting moisture. Looking for that water supply. And a lot of people think, oh man, I put this clean water in for them. How many times have you seen deer drink clean water? And if it's moving water, they don't do that a lot. That's why like water holes are pretty cool, because like you give them a little bit of time to get stagnant. I don't know why deer like dirty water. I don't know why that is, man. I would want that clean, cool stuff. But they do. They love mud puddles and
that's what gets them in trouble with the EHD. Totally separate topic and video, right? But I mean, that's what gets them in trouble is they love stagnant water, and that stagnant water, the mud around it, is what holds the midge. And the tank, you don't have to worry about that. It gets it stagnant enough, and that it's not fresh water. I get that all the time. What do you mean? Why I have a creek on my property, and why do I need water? I don't need water.
I was just going to say,
20 feet from it, they water out of the tank. They're 10 to 1.
Yeah, I've got a spring on my property. It runs right down through a kill plot that I have below the house, and you would think that I would have deer drinking out of that stream all the time. Never seen one yet. I've been here 22 years, never seen a deer drink from that stream. Now, if we get a hard rain and there's a mud puddle, they go over and just lick it up.
Is that a mineral thing for them though? Like that mud and everything coming out of the earth, like the minerals in the water because it's extra muddy? Like that's I thought that was one of the reasons why they do like that kind of stuff, because there's all kinds of minerals, coming up from the muddy water.
Could be.
And things like that hold minerals more than it would be like a fresh stream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be, but I mean, my tanks I had a pond on my property that you should see the looks that I got from my friends and neighbors when I pulled the plug on that dam, and they were like, "What are you doing to that water? That's your water source." Well, it's not in the right spot to hunt, and I put the same water sources in my hunting areas, right, or in front of my stands, and that they're watering out of that water tanks 10 to 1 than they were in that, so maybe it does have something to do in a natural situation with mineral that would be soaked up from mud or whatever the case is. But I think it's just warm. They seek warm water. They don't want cool water. They digest that different than we do. It's whether it's like in a stream and it's making noise. A lot of those areas are a creek. To me, a lot of them creeks and ponds are in a hole.
Yeah,
and they don't like walking down in it. They're sticking their head below something they can't see, like at a water hole. They got their head in it. They're looking at you the whole time. I don't know. A lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved in that. Definitely. Like even the sports like people that play sports. Like I was always brought, like even ice when I played hockey and stuff. you don't want ice cold water when you're playing sports and stuff like that. So maybe that has something to do with the deer. Like you said, it digests better. It helps them. It doesn't cool them down, because when you're out and you're hot and you drink some ice water, you sort of cooling yourself down. So in the winter or whatever those months, the deer might not like that. They want like what I call like room temperature water, because your body uses the room temperature water better than it does the cold water.
Well,
You know what I mean? So
I
maybe
can
that has
say
something to
this.
do with that.
I'm a welder by trade, and I don't drink cold water.
Mm-hmm.
I buy a case of water and I just let it sit out.
Yeah.
And I take those in my lunchbox every day, because I drink that cold water, it just comes right back out of me. It doesn't stay in and hydrate you. You
Well,
sweat it right back out. So maybe this is a factor that we're hitting on here. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good reason why they don't, because their body doesn't absorb it if it's cold. You know what I mean? It has to fall to a certain temperature for your body to absorb it, and your cells in your body have to be that, and they have to absorb it. You know what I mean? Yep. So maybe that's just a scientific thing there that we just uncovered it just unearthed the science of the minerals.
The scientific.
You heard it first here. Watch it. We won't get any credit for it.
All because I welded, huh?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So
my phone is beeping at me with the 5% deal here, just to cuts out, you know what happened. So
okay, well, let's get Josh on this one. Then this is the last topic that I want to hit on tonight. And if Josh goes out on us, at least we got his input. Yep. What are the deer doing right now in the woods?
Like, right now they're rebounding. They're putting that feed bag on. I've got good friends of mine from Michigan in camp in the lodge with me right now, and they're hunting a property that we have just down the road, a lease that they have, and with me, and we're banking on, they're going back to that feed bag, right? They're putting that feed bag on. The thing to focus on right now, though, is our second muzzleloader hunt here in Kentucky is the second weekend of I think it starts the 9th. Big thing to focus on. That's one of my topics that I teach this time of the year. Thing to focus on is 28 days after the peak of your rut. So here in Kentucky, it's about November. Where I'm at, Central Kentucky, is November 11th, right? Peak of the rut. PA and Michigan's probably the 6th or the 7th, right? Advance that 28 days, and this year the state of Kentucky's that late muzzleloader season is going to be dynamite, because the second rut is coming, and all them.
What do you mean?
What was my videos about this week, Ted?
What do you mean? I don't. There's no second rut. What are you talking about? What are you talking?
Well, then I made 2 bad videos.
It might not be as strong as the first, but I'm telling you, in this year, to be honest with you, our rut, and it could have a lot to do with when the does were bred last year and fawned last year, and the reason that they're late this year, right? But I think you're going to see around the country as a whole, you're going to see a lot of, not just only because it's feed related, right? But that second rut, and they're more, because there's just not as many people, and maybe they are going to start showing a little more daylight out in them, unpressured food sources and stuff like we talked about. That's what we're seeing. Deer that were one of the target bucks that my friends are after right now with us. He was 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and now he's 15 minutes, hour after dark and right before daylight. So it's coming, and all it takes is that one cool temp drop. We just got horrible rain and warm temperatures this week,
that's what we got down here too. Warm. And
but all in all, advance that 28 days. Gestation, or that heat cycle, 28 days, and it falls right on December 9th this year. And it's like perfect. So I think you're going to see a lot of that.
You hit my videos on the nail head. I just put out a reel about the second rut, and then I think last night I just put out the one about the third rut, because around here, the epic nights were Halloween night and November 1st. And then the 29th, which is exactly 28 days from November 1st, we had so many deer hit on the roads here, and so many deer running across highways and things chasing, that I put out a reel, and I just told everybody that was the second rut happening, So I put out a video yesterday saying to all the PA guys in my area, you best be in the woods December 27th for the late flintlock season, because that'll be your third rut and your best chance to get in those woods and get at it, man. But you hit it right on the head, man. basically took the words right out of my video.
That's awesome.
That's a video I need to stop long enough to shoot. As I got a really good friend of mine. You know, I've managed high fence ranches and been involved in the breeding process, and that's where all that knowledge comes from years ago in my past life, right? And a lot of people don't realize as a doe, like females, right? They come into heat every 28 days, not just in the fall. It's every 28 days until they're bred. So
even in the summer.
I had guys calling me this year, September, from Michigan. Hey, I watched a 4-point breeded doe in the middle of my food plot. What in the world's going on? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
It wasn't bred. It just, you know, it got a cold temp. Things. It's every 28 days, and yes, it amplifies when the daylight drops and it puts that rut into action. We all know that. But second, third, if you got food, you're going to see that late season.
Yeah.
If you don't, you probably won't see the third rut, right? But I mean, that it's there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize either, though, that those yearlings, when they get a certain body weight and nutrition wise and stuff, their bodies become, it's like flicking a switch. They become able to come into heat, and they might not come in, reach that body weight till February, March. And that's where we get into archery season. We see that little 2 foot tall with spots out in the food plot with mama. Yeah. It's like, what? That thing is tiny. Where'd that thing come? Well, that was probably a yearling that came into heat really late.
Yeah, it's not the norm, right? It's not the majority, but it definitely happens. And a lot of folks don't, I mean, I think it's something that we're taught in the hunting world is it's the rut. You know, it's a 30-day window, and that's the only time they breed, and it's not the truth. There's so much more, but every 28 days. So advance that November 11th to here, the 11th, and that's like the 8th, 9th of December, and
for sure.
I should do good next week, or
for sure.
I'm hoping to get down to. I'm going to Ohio next weekend.
Oh, good deal.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be down to Ohio. So, but Josh, if you got to go, buddy, I don't want you.
I'm down to like 2%.
And I don't want it to act like I'm pushing you out. You could stay all night, man, because we could talk all night. You know that. But we're gonna definitely do this again in the future. I really appreciate everything, Josh. I'm putting Josh's link in here again, guys. If you want to learn about just management and land management and deer in general, go over to Josh's web or YouTube channel. Please give him a sub. And then here, if you want to know anything, you can always email Josh. Right? That ain't your email. Sorry. Josh's email is right here. Yeah, this is Josh's email right here. It's josh@whitetaildrivensolutions.com. And then if you want to check out his website, it is whitetaildrivensolutions.com.
Yep. Well, you guys, the offer stands. I surely appreciate you. Reaching out and involving me in these. And this year, I'm in PA multiple times a year, so maybe the three of us get together.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome. Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And we're gonna do some more of these lives because I really appreciate your company and I really respect your knowledge and everything that you have. So
I'm glad to have met you. Glad to have met you, and I am subbed, by the way.
All right, sounds good, guys.
All right, guys. Well, take care. Thanks, Josh. Have a great day.
See you, bud.
See ya. Cool. Yeah, Josh is a good guy. He's a book of knowledge. I mean, the guy has been there, done that. That's what he does for a living. I love having Josh on here. He's a book of knowledge, So
we didn't even get into consulting stuff. I love to talk about that too.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of we'll have you're always welcome, and I'm always asking you to come up on my lives because we have some very interesting lives. I hope everybody enjoyed that talk with Josh today. But does anybody have any questions or anything for us? I mean, we've been going for about an hour and a half. I'm cool to stay on for a little bit, Chris, if you're okay.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
And we could talk about our seasons and what's coming up too, because I like to keep up to date and let people know. Johnny Smallpepper's in here. What's up, Johnny? Thanks for coming in.
Make sure these people are all subbing to me to get into the giveaway when I hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone.
I'm gonna share your link again, Chris, right here. I want everybody to pick Chris up, man, because he is if you want to learn about food plotting and stuff like that, Chris is a great guy. He's knowledgeable. One of my really good friends. I'm glad that I met. He used to live here. Check him out. And let me write this down here. I'm just gonna put city sticker here. City sticker. and he is doing a giveaway at 1,000 subs. So let's help him get to 1,000. He's doing a Kershaw knife, an engraved Kershaw knife, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to put
it's going
city
to be
sticker.
one off, man. One off.
Yeah.
It's going to be the only one made.
Cool. And where are you at right now, Chris, with your channel? Let me see. You are at...
I don't even know. Somewhere around 945 or 950 or something like that.
Yeah. I think I see 945 on my thing right now. So he's at 945. So we need another 55 to go. So if you guys aren't subscribed to him, hey, what's up, Hunting and Stuff? Pick up Chris, City Sticker Chris. Great channel, great guy, and he's no BS. If you have any questions, you could always you have an email, or do you have a way of people to contact you for any questions about the food plotting or anything like that?
Well, if they just make a comment, I'll get back
make a
to
comment.
them.
Okay,
yeah,
we'll
make
do
a comment
that
over on YouTube or on my Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah, the Instagram's name City Sticker Chris also. If they would like to go follow there, because I post way more pictures, obviously, on Instagram and
Hand me
reels
down.
and
What's
things.
up?
I post a lot more over there than I do to YouTube.
I'm gonna
Hunting and Stuff. John, what's up?
Hand me down. And
no, it's not City Slicker. Stop that. It's City Sticker. It's Sticker. But it is a play on words for City Slicker because I came from the city. And I like to say from the hoods to the woods.
So let me, Chris, real quick, let me just give a big shout out and a thank you to all my associates that work with me on YouTube and all my other social media.
Yeah, do that.
I'd like to say thanks to Yolatech for getting me on their team there. Fishoholic, Gordy over at Fishoholic, great. Go check out Fishoholic on. They don't have a YouTube channel, but they have a Facebook page and Instagram. So go over and check them out. If you look in my description, you can go over and buy their gear. They have a bunch of gear, awesome looking gear. And you use my code Off the Hook Outdoors, you get a 25% off. I'd like to say thank you to FishAngler. I'd also like to thank a big thank you, and this is related to Chris and myself, to Domain Outdoors LLC. They are our seed company that we use their seed in our food plots. Great company. You can check them out in my description. And I don't know if you have them in your description, Chris, in any of your videos, but if you do, you can look at our descriptions in our videos, and you can go over to Domain Seed and check all the seed they have. They have a mix for everybody. There's a certain situation, if there's a certain food source that you want, they have it. So make sure you go check them out. Another big one is a Limit Shield. I'm working with the Limit Shield. Chris is working with the Limit Shield. I believe that's the best cover scent product out on the market today, especially their base layer scent that makes all your scent disappear. That's
the
Extend. They have a great product. So go over, check out a Limit Shield, go to their website, and I think I have their website right here. And if you get in there, throw a comment up there if you're ordering anything for Phil. Let Phil know that Chris from City Sticker Chris and Ted from Off the Hook Outdoors sent you over. Here's the website for a Limit Shield. You guys go over there. They have some great products. It's just unbelievable. I start using it, and I do want to talk about that real quick after I'm done. But the last people I want to thank is Rubline Scents. We use Rubline Scents this year. We're affiliated. I'm on the pro staff. Chris is on the pro staff for Rubline Scents. We've been using that scent all year. They've been real good to us this year, providing us with scent and things like that. So go check out Rubline Scents also if you have a chance to do that. Now, getting back to the Limit Shield. Okay. And I'm gonna start this off by, and I know you've done this too. Usually at the beginning of September, and people are going to think I'm crazy. My wife does, my kids do. I stopped using deodorant. Okay. I don't use deodorant under my own, like Right Guard or anything like that. I don't use any of the Axe sprays or none of that stuff. Like the beginning of September. And I was using like just the regular deodorant, the scent-free deodorants, the stuff that's on the market. Like you have Dead Downwind, you have, Hunter Specialties, all kinds of different deodorants out there. And I would use that deodorant. But this year, Chris turned me on to the Limit Shield, and I got a hold with Phil. Phil Dixon is their rep, and I start talking to Phil, and he put me on the team for a Limit Shield. I sent me the products. I bought them. They weren't given to me. I bought the product off of them, and I start using it. Well, they have a really cool product besides the Extend. It's called the Core Body Foam. And I live and die by this product. This thing is so good. And what I did was, now I started putting it under my armpits and using it, getting out of the shower and things like that. Now, any product, you're going to want to be clean. So what I use is the Elimishield bath and body soap and stuff like that. They have a whole line of products. Go check them out on the elimishield.com. But that's key, to be clean when you're using the stuff. Now, I used another product that I don't really want to name the product because I don't want to bash anybody, but I used to use a body foam that I found years ago that I've been using for years. And I put it to the test.
Did you?
I used that body foam.
One under
my
each
arm.
pit?
No, I did it on both. I didn't do one each pit, but I did that. And I went to work and come back and, you do the old smell test.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you right now, you do not smell yourself with the Elimishield. Now, I did smell myself with the other product that I used. So just to let you guys know, I'm not crazy, but that's the stuff that we do. And as a hunter, we want all the advantages in the world, like the dead downwind and everything like that. Yope was saying that, like, it, and I'm going to get to this and I'm going to get Chris's opinion on this. Like, when you go to the store and you see, I'm not going to say any names, but when you see products on the shelf, on the end caps, and there's big orange signs and there's golden signs and there's this and that and the other, and it's saying, oh, half off or buy one, get one free or $3 for this bottle. There is a shelf life on products. And when you have, and I just want to put it out there, when you have plant-based materials in products, it breaks down.
For sure.
Okay. For sure. It breaks down. And the Elimishield is not plant-based. It is actually medically, it's like clinically based. Like the technology that they put into this product is like hospital-based products. And Chris can go into a little bit more because he's a little more detailed in that stuff. But all I'm going to say is Bryson Industries is the company that makes the Elimishield. And I know Elimishield is a partner with like Hunter Specialties also, or Hunter Safety System. They're also in part of that. But I'm going to let Chris explain sort of like the background a little bit with this product that they have. But it is hospital-based. And when COVID hit, Chris, what was the product that was 100% used during that? I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, and I'll be right back.
So yeah, Bryson Industries, their company mixes chemicals, and they have everything from they have a citrus-based one that you can scrub your barbecue grill with, and it takes the gunk off of the grill. They have an enzyme-based chemical that you can dump down your drain, and it'll eat away at the food particles or whatever is down in the drain that's stinking, and it'll clear your drains. They have products that like gyms use, like to spray down the equipment with, the sweaty equipment, and like to clean up the smelly boys' locker rooms, the puberty into the pubescent boys with their BO. What else they got? Well, Ted alluded to when COVID hit. Now, when COVID hit, this Elimishield company has product, and it's like he was saying, it's clinically based. Hospitals use this stuff, and it was a hand sanitizer. Okay, that they were supplying to hospitals. So not only was it killing the germs, but it was sanitizing, and it's actually good for the skin. It's made to go right on the skin. Now, there's a certain YouTube fella out there. He's pretty big. I'm not going to name him, but he had kidney replacement. He was a transplant patient, and he was actually using it and was working on his scars and his stitches and stuff, and putting the core body foam on that. And when he went back to the doctor for a checkup, they said, "Man, what are you doing? You're 70 some years old and you're healing like a 20-year-old, And here he was using the core body foam. Now, I've tested it. Now, this is a little bit too much information, but
but we're crazy like that, Chris.
But I am crazy like that, Pittsburgh kid. I will tell you that I tore it up one weekend, and had too much Mexican or something in me. And I had the skids, okay? And it was a rough weekend sitting on the toilet, all right? I put it to the test. I had a sore rear end. I took that core body foam and I wiped with it and got, after I got cleaned up, I put a little bit on there. It was like antiseptic, man. It was like 20 minutes, all pain was gone. And I told someone else about it, and they did it. And they called me up. They're like, "You never guess what happened." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "I had a sore butt, and I put the core body foam." I'm like, "All right, too much information, but okay." You know, but yeah, I mean, the stuff is good, good stuff. And like Ted said, it is key. It is key. You have to be clean first. This isn't
Yes.
something you smell already and then you put it on and expect the smell to go away. No, this is what you do. You get a shower, you get clean. You put the core body foam any place that you're going to sweat. I mean, your crotch, your rear end, your around your neck, because you get all sweaty going in the morning or whatever. You're getting all sweaty around your neck and then your hairline.
I put it in my hair. I put it in my hair.
Rub it through your hair, on your face, behind your earlobes. Did you ever notice how oily you get behind your earlobes or on your forehead? I wipe down your face. I mean, get clean, put it on.
It sounds
And
like loom.
this stuff will what was it? I forgot what I was trying to say there.
You were so excited you forgot about it.
Yeah, I forgot. It doesn't kill bacteria. It keeps bacteria from forming.
Yeah. And that's why this X10 right here is so good, because
that goes on anything that goes against your skin. I took, and you extend X10 means there's 3 Ds and or 3 10s. I'm sorry. I'm saying 3 Ds. I'm all excited now. There's 3 10s involved. You can do 10 pounds of clothing in you let it soak. Yeah, you can in 10-gallon of water, and you let it soak for 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then you get the stuff out and you wring it out the best you can, and you either air dry it or you could stick it in your dryer after the clothes are mostly dry, is what Philip told us.
Yeah.
He said you can get it to a point where it's just damp, and then you could finish drying it in the dryer.
Yeah,
but
or put it on low. Like you don't want to heat it up. You want to put it on low in the dryer.
So what you do is you get the hottest tap water you can run. Get 10-gallon of water. Get it as hot as you can from the tap. And then throw in 10 pounds of clothes and let them soak for at least 10 minutes. And it's the bacteria cannot form on the clothing because the Extend adheres to all the textiles and the contour of every fabric out there. Yeah. And so it's locked in for the life of the garment. I can't remember what's the bottle say, Ted. It's either for the life of the garment or for 50 washes.
For 50. I can't even.
I think it's 50 washes.
I think it's right. It says it makes it. I don't even, hold on.
I think it's 50.
It bonds the fibers and textiles to create a chain odor-causing compounds. A single treatment with the X10 can last up to 50 washes. It also prevents garments. It also protects garments from souring during storage.
For sure.
So yeah, but this stuff is
they have the core body foam. They have the Extend. They have a field spray. They have a laundry detergent.
Yeah, I have the laundry detergent downstairs. I didn't want to go grab that one, but yeah.
I mean, the stuff is just legit.
Yeah, I won't go buy another one.
There's not stuff out there, and they have money back guarantee and never have had to pay money out. No one has ever complained to the point where they would have to pay out.
Yeah.
So But hey, FYI, Ted, better watch our podcast tomorrow. Which for anybody in the chat that doesn't know, I have a podcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. It comes out. So guess who our guest was?
Who?
On the podcast? Phil. He's back tomorrow.
Yeah, so, cool. He's coming. He's gonna come up on mine after a little bit. He was out in a way, so I talked to him, and he's gonna get a hold of me, and we're gonna have him up here on my channel pretty soon too. And you'll be invited also, Chris. So.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, Phil's a good dude.
Yeah, he is. He's a real good dude. I just talked to him today, actually.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he'll be the subject matter of the podcast tomorrow at 5.
Cool.
So. Yeah, I mean, this is the most legit product I've ever used. I mean, I have not used stick deodorant since September 18th, I think. No, 16th. I think 16th.
Anyhow, yeah, and it works, man. I mean, it works.
Yep. And I even, when we went up to bear camp up in New York, I had the guys try it all, and
yeah,
I mean, because we was putting on some miles and nobody was stinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, good crap, man.
It's really good. Yeah, it's good. I won't. I'm hooked on it. Like I believe in this product 100%. That's why I promote it and represent it. I mean, it's an awesome.
Well, I've replaced stick deodorant.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way because it's a foam.
Yeah.
And I just use one pump. Rub it on my hands, put it under the pits.
Yep.
Go to work. I'm a welder.
Yeah.
I sweat like a hog.
Yep.
I weld all day, 8-10 hours, whichever I have to do. I come home, I don't smell.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff, and I won't hunt without it anymore. So you guys make sure you go check out a Limit Shield and let them know that I sent you. Me and Chris sent you over if you talk to Phil.
And one of the things that Phil and I agreed on is, and I think it comes out in the podcast at some point, I said that I don't worry about hunting the wind anymore. I'm so confident in it.
Yeah.
And the doe that I shot in archery down here in my food plot, the one time there, she came into a mock scrape. She actually looked up and saw me.
Yeah.
And she got nervous. They went in behind me, tried to scent check me, got downwind. And she couldn't pick me up. So curiosity, she came back out and still didn't give me a shot.
Yeah.
Well, she got nervous again and went behind me again. Now, she went back there twice and tried to scent check me. She couldn't get me. But she wanted in that scrape for some reason. And she come out the third time, and it was a fatal mistake because she gave me her back for a while, and I got drawn. And when she turned sideways, I zipped her. But
I had a few deer in Ohio, Chris, right directly downwind from me, and they never even looked. I had a few deer look up at me. I did have one deer look up at me and bust me, and it wasn't because of my scent. My scent was blowing that way, but it saw me messing with the camera because I had deer in front of me, and I didn't even see. And it was a little spike that snuck up behind me, and I end up looking because I heard a branch snap, and he's looking at me, but he still couldn't make me out or smell me, and the wind was blowing directly to him. He turned around and walked away, but he did not smell me, or he would have been gone. And he just walked away slowly, and the deer in front of me stayed there. I didn't have a deer alert on me or wind me at all in Ohio. And I told you I was taking it down there to test it because that's when I first got it.
Right.
And I am a firm believer. I was on the ground in blinds with this. I've walked up on deer with this, so it's really a cool product, and I'm hooked, and I'm a firm believer in the Limit Shield. If you haven't tried it, at least if you don't buy all the products, at least go get yourself. I think this is what, $12 or $13 or something like that.
It's under 15. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go out, just try it. All I'm asking you. And now Phil told me they also have a money back guarantee.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about while you was gone.
Yeah, they have the money back guarantee, and they'll buy you. They'll buy you. They never paid out, and they said that they will buy you if you take this product and you use it and you're not satisfied with it, you get your money back. They will buy you a product of your choice.
Yeah.
Equal value. So that's a pretty good warranty in my eyes. Not too many companies do that.
No.
And so it's really a cool thing. I'm anxious to use this Extend again, and I'm not gonna probably use this bottle this year because my hunting season's almost over. I still have it on my other clothes, but the beginning of next year, even though it says 50 washes, I'm gonna do it every year before my hunting season, and it'll last all hunting season.
Yeah, and I did everything. I did underwear, socks, all my base layers. Yep.
And you know what I learned, and too, Chris, like to be on the technical side of it, you know, behind the scenes, you can go on a Limit Shield's website and you could look at all they explain a lot of their technology to you.
Yep.
And you know, if you're out there, and I've used Scent Blocker, I've used Scent Lock my whole life. Okay. But if you look at the carbon factors and stuff, and I'm not knocking Scent Blocker, great products, Scent Lock, great products, but your at-home dryer does not get to the temperature that you need to release to actually reactivate your carbon suits, the carbon that's in these suits. You have to have like it's 180 degrees, I believe, and your dryer does not get to that level. So you may activate it. You may take some of the scent out of your carbon, but not all of it. And when they say you throw it in a dryer on high and you can hunt for 10 more hunts with it until it fills up and then you reactivate it, you got to be careful with that stuff. You know, a lot of stuff is selling because of that. And but this here just gives you that insurance that your body's not creating odor while you're in the woods.
And it lasts forever. I mean, I'm on the same bottle still from September, you know. And I would have already gone through 2 sticks of deodorant by now.
You know, what did I call you for, Chris? What is the shelf life? 5 year or 3 year?
5 years.
It's 5 years on it.
It's 5 years on that. On the well, that was on the refill of the field spray, I think.
Yeah, the refills 5 years. 5 years. Now you go and you buy the other products. I'm not knocking them. You can do whatever you want. But a lot of the companies, you know, they have leftover stock at the end of the year that's already been sitting on the shelf, and who knows how long it's been sitting on the shelf before they received it. So they're giving you discounts, buy one, get one free. Here's a bottle for $2.99. You can go buy that product and think you're scent free. That's fine. You do whatever you like. I'm not telling you not to buy it, but if you look into the science behind it, it all makes sense. If you look at the Limit Shield, read the science, go check for yourself, take your stuff that you buy on the shelf that's been sitting there, or you get your discount, pour it in a clear glass and just look at the difference. Plant-based breaks down, and the shelf life on products like that are a lot less than something like that's clinically based.
And
so,
unrelated to that, but you brought up dates. Like people need to be careful about what seed they're buying too. That's sat on a shelf somewhere and been relabeled. For a couple years, because seeds they will have trouble germinating.
That's definitely. I've been a victim of that.
They need to pay attention to the dates on the back of the bags.
But if you buy domain seed, you ain't got to worry about that stuff.
Nope.
You ain't got to worry about that stuff.
Don't have to worry about that.
I don't have domain in here for the seeds, but I am gonna go. Do they have a YouTube channel, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna go over to Domain Seed real quick. I'm gonna share Domain because I want you guys to pick them up also. And it's Domain Outdoors, right?
Domain Outdoor, no S.
Outdoor.
Domain Outdoor LLC.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if I have it. Domain Outdoors. There it is right there. I'm going to share this in the chat here, guys, if you guys wouldn't mind going and picking them up. Let them know that Chris from City Sticker Chris and Ted from Off the Hook Outdoors sent you over there. Domain Outdoors. I'm just going to put a Domain Outdoors for the description, and then you'll see the channel come up. Go over, pick them up, and check them out too, and let them know that Chris and Ted sent you over there. So, but yeah, that's about all I have, Chris. It's been about 2 hours here. Are you okay with that, or you want to knock on anything else? You want to?
Let's save it for the next one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do more of these and, get on. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Having Josh and Chris on, it's a great live all the time. I appreciate you being here, Chris. I appreciate Josh for spending some time here with you guys. But that's what I'm trying to do is bring you, knowledge, Maybe I'm always learning. So I like to learn off of you guys, and I'm hoping that you guys are picking something up off of this channel and also Chris's channel. I really like to share with other people, like bringing Josh on here and sharing his knowledge with you guys. So maybe you can learn something, pick him up. You have any questions or anything, you can always get a hold of Chris. You can always get a hold of me. My email's in my description. I answer all the comments, all the emails. I answer them within a couple days. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for being in here. Chris, you have anything, last words or anything you want to say to anybody?
Well, like I said, on my channel, there's a podcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. And if you're not familiar with the channel, I do food plotting and self-filming of hunts and things. This year wasn't that great on self-filming, but I did get some critters, and I'll have a couple videos coming here soon.
I would have loved to have seen that Sika deer hunt.
Yeah, well, I didn't have the camera running for the shot.
I know.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Like my sponsor, like Yolatech always says, hashtag always be recording.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I always shoot first, film second. I mean, I'm not gonna pass up a trophy just because it's not on film.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, check out the channel. There'll be a 1,000 subscriber giveaway coming soon. I'd like to hit that before Christmas and give that away. That would be cool. So
yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, Chris. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna get you off of here, and I'm going to do my closings, but always a pleasure to have you on, Chris. And like I said, you're welcome anytime. Chris and I are going to be doing some collabs this year on some food plots and stuff. I'm going to have him down my way, and possibly, I'll be up his way. We're going to have some videos on food plots, our suggestions, what we do, and just show you guys what we're doing. And like in my own place, show you how I do things, and Chris is going to show you how he does things. So hopefully we can learn off of you guys and your comments, and you can learn something off of us. So Chris, I'm going to let you go now, and I'm going to just do my closing, and that's it, brother.
All right, bud. I'll catch
you later.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, guys. Well, that's it for tonight's live video podcast on Off the Hook Outdoors. Like, once again, I wanted to thank my sponsors, Jason from JJ Drones, Dan the Droning Veteran, and Carl from Chillin' in Indiana. Carl. I'd like to thank Yolatech Fishoholic, FishAngler, Domain, Limit Shield, and Rubline Sense. So thank you. And like I always say, take a kid fishing or hunting. We want to preserve that sport and pass it on to future generations. And we will see ya.